Alright, shalom, shalom. This is Brother Samak. Before I do anything, I want to start off giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahushai Bahashim, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who do rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect that are scattered abroad. And with that, this is Brother Samak coming at you with another lesson. Lord will, this is edifying. So this is gonna be a of aka response to Manat Zakba's video. Yeah, I'm gonna say some different things that I've seen in this video, man, and it really shows that, well, let me just let it play. So without further ado, here we go.
The code, guys, and I'm gonna share it with you. I cracked the code, guys, and I'm gonna share it with you. So, a lot of the times they will not be broken with mentions of like when Paul is preaching, or really any preachings that have to do with you can't cherry pick the law. You have to follow all of the law. There's several scriptures that basically get to that point. Paul is so frustrated with people who are still considering circumcision as a requirement to be a Christian. He's so upset with them that he says, I wish they would go ahead and just mutilate themselves because they're taking it too far. Well, a lot of them won't even respond to that. But I got frustrated enough with this guy who was saying that, pants are sin and women wearing pants or cross-dressing. Like, you mean to tell me if I have on a pair of capris, jewelry, makeup, bracelets, a freaking purse, I'm cross-dressing? I'm trying to be seen as a man? Like, get real. But he was like, well, you want to wear pants and that's cross-dressing, so you need to be okay with a man wearing heels and a dress and makeup. And I said, oh, did you know that starting in the 10th century, men wore heels? That's right. It's a historical fact. You can look it up. They started wearing high-heeled shoes to hoist themselves on horses, and by around the 17th century, it was considered a status symbol and a symbol of masculinity. Also, wigs. Men and women wore wigs at the same time. So I guess that's kind of a moot point, but makeup. Men were wearing makeup in the early centuries.
Hey, Shalakia. So this part in particular, because and this part in particular is where I think of the scripture in particular. Hold on. Because Manat Zakba was, touching base on, the law and everything like that. And this lady, too, was talking about Paul in particular. Right? Because Christians love to talk about Paul and everything, but Paul was he follows the law, too. He didn't say for you not to follow the law. That's why people misconstrue what Paul is saying, man. They don't even understand Paul. But there's a couple scriptures I wanted in particular. Let's start at Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 1. Hold on, let me fix this real quick. Alright, there we go. 10 and verse 1, it says, Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O children of Israel. Okay, and nobody else. Okay, this is speaking to Israel. So this is you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Okay, so it says, Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen. Be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. And this particular verse is what I was thinking about when I heard that when in Manata's was a video that he posted and everything, because here it is, our people is like, there's nothing wrong with it, because this person, we did it back then and everything like that. We did not do that. Okay, we did not do that. That is not of us. That is not our custom. Okay, that's why I'll say real quick because there's a couple things I want to say. Right. So number one, the Deuteronomy 7:6. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. Okay, holy meaning separate, set apart. We are set apart from all these other nations, man. So we aren't supposed to be following after these other nations and their customs because it's only going to make us weak. And you see that. You see that now and you've seen that back then. Okay, in those times. Because we were without our power. Okay? We were not following the law, statutes, and commandments. And what happened? We were brought low. Okay? So that's number one. Number two, Paul himself even said these things. Let's go down. People don't understand that, and this is another thing. They say that Paul was speaking of his own, but he was actually speaking, thus saith the Lord. He's actually speaking in the scriptures because the scripture, what was that? What was I gonna say? Yeah, the scripture I brought out in Jeremiah, learn not the way of the heathen. These customs in particular were the ways of the heathen, man. Okay? Hold up. Oh no. Oh, Salakia, it's Corinthians. I'm looking for Corinthians. It's First Corinthians. There we go. Come on. It says because Paul in particular was going into the customs and how to be, okay? As far as what we are supposed to be doing, you know? And this is according to the scriptures, right? Let me see. Okay. Here we go. This is First Corinthians 11 and 14, Salakia. It says, doth not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him? Okay, why is he saying that? Right? Because multiple reasons. Number one, it's confusion. Number two, you look like a girl, man. You know? You got guys that's out here with long hair, and that's a confusion. And if you know your history, that goes back to the Greeks, okay? That wasn't us. When she's talking about guys wearing wigs and everything like that, and the heels, that was not us. That was these other nations that were doing that. We weren't wearing no daggone heels, man. No, we weren't wearing no heels. Okay? So again, learn not the ways of the heathen. It says, but if a woman have long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given her for a covering. Right? And nowadays you don't see, I'll say specifically the so-called black woman, you don't see their hair being grown, man. The hair is really short, you know, and that's a curse. That's a curse to her too, you know. The Lord smiting the hair, her crown, you know, the crown of her head. Let me keep reading. It says, but if any man seem to be contentious, we have no such custom, neither the churches of the Most High. Now this says, now in this that I declare unto you, I praise you not, that ye come together not the for the better, but for the worst. It says, right. Actually, man, I'm telling you, man. Paul again bringing together. Let me see. It says, for first of all, when ye come together in the church, I hear that there be divisions among you, and I partly believe it. For there must be also heresies among you, that they which are apart may be made manifest among you. Well, that's pretty much the point. But I'm gonna read that in a different version. I'm gonna read that in NLT. This is again verse 14. It says, "Isn't it obvious that it is disgraceful for a man to have long hair? And isn't long hair a woman's pride and joy? For it has been given to her as a covering. But if anyone wants to argue about this, I simply say that we have no other custom than this, and do God's other neither do God's other churches. So again, we have no other customs. We are gonna keep, as the scriptures say, keeping the keep you well, no, just keeping the ordinances. Well, yeah, keeping the ordinances. You know, you got to keep everything together, man. And again, the scriptures also say that we're gonna discontinue from our heritage. This is our heritage. Paul himself was giving them knowledge on our heritage, man, and how we're supposed to be. You know, he's teaching these Corinthians, and mind you, that's why Corinthians is a real, how can I say, correction book, because he was trying to teach these Corinthians like, hey, this is not what we're supposed to do. You're not supposed to divorce, marry, all stuff. Teaching about marriage and everything like that. He's teaching them the customs, man, bringing them back to the heritage, man, that we once had. You know. So again, when it comes down to it, yeah, nah, man, that long hair, those high heels, whatever crazy things that were happening back then, that is not of us. That's not our custom. You know, that's the heathen's custom. Okay. Let me see. Verse it says, "But in the following instructions I cannot praise you, for it sounds as if more harm than good is done when you meet together." Right. And again, this is really, it's crazy, because even now you can see that even now on our people, man. You know, we can't come together, man. That's why, when I can't even trust my own people, man. You know, let alone these other nations, man. So it's crazy. It's so much division, especially with this. You got so many denominations, so many religions out there, man. Our people are so separate. You know, they got we got people in this Muslim crap. You got people in this Christianity bull crap. You know, and then even within Israel, there's men that think differently too, man, and it's insane. But it's all of the Lord, man, because at the end of the day, the scriptures say if it were possible, they could deceive the very elect, but they can't. So the Lord would have to give you that spirit of discernment to discern whether or not which way to go. You know, let me get that real quick. This is 1 John chapter 4 and verse 1. Oh, no, I want the KJV. Salakia. Alright, it says, "Beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits whether they are of the Most High, because many false prophets are going out into the world." So again, try the spirits, right? And the only way to try them is, first and foremost, you have to know the scriptures for yourself. You know, you should know it for yourself first, and everything like that. You know, and again, The Lord has to put that spirit upon you, that spirit of discernment and everything like that, to discern, spirits, man, to try to figure out who's doing the right thing, you know. And that's another thing too. Matthew 7, right? Matthew's chapter 7, verse 15. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are raven wolves. Right? Sheep's clothing, when it comes down to it, that's talking about our people. Because this too, a prophet, and this is what cuts that Muslim bull crap, because they saying Muhammad was a prophet, but yet if you go to Leviticus, if I'm not mistaken, it's probably Leviticus 11, the 11th chapter. I could be wrong, but um, it's in the book of Leviticus, is what I do know. It's where it says it has to be among the brethren. So the prophet has to be an Israelite. Okay. So again, beware of false prophets which come to you in sheep's clothing, because it's our own people. The sheep, they look like sheep, right? They look like us, and then they go forth and try to bring forth an agenda, a false ideology, and put it upon you, and you get deceived, right? Because it's our people. So again, beware of false prophets which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are raven wolves. Okay, it says, and I can say specifically, I'll say there's pastors, and then there's people that are in Israel that's being paid off, man. That we believe that's getting being paid off. You know, trying to deceive the people, man. It says, "Ye shall know them by their fruits," and the fruits go into what, the knowledge that they're bringing out, right? The fruit represents knowledge. It says, "Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit." Right? You see that the thing that they're saying, right? It sounds good to you, but it's not working. It's not working. That's these so-called pastors, man. You're constantly thirsty. You're constantly wanting more, and it's like, and mind you, man, that's deep too. That's deep too. You got because I'll say this, the scriptures say that the scripture compare men to trees, right? So that being said, again, the tree being the man, and the knowledge is the fruit. If they're giving you a fruit, it's like a man giving you a fruit and it's rotten, and it's like a soft apple, and it's just disgusting. You're like, you take a little bite and you're like, ugh, nah, give me another one. Try to, they're not satisfied. They want more. They're not even getting any nutrients from that fruit, man. They're not getting anything from that. But the real men of the Lord are going to give you knowledge and understanding, and give you this true fruit, which is going to benefit you. Okay? So, read that, verse 18. It says, "A good tree cannot bring forth fruit, so like if bring forth evil fruit, neither." Right. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Right. You know, because at the end of the day, and you think about trees, a lot of time there's a, probably, again, when it comes to trees in general, hey, you never know if that tree may be like rotten from the inside, right? You don't know what's going on the inside. You could tell by the way, again, the way the fruit grows, right? So it says, It says, every tree that bringeth not the good fruit, or bringeth not forth good fruit, is hewn down and cast into fire. Right. And that in particular goes into, if it be of the Lord, it will come to naught. Okay. Socket. Yeah, if it be not of the Lord, it'll come to naught. Right. But if it be of the Lord, then ye cannot overthrow it. So that's the key thing. You could tell that it's of the Lord, because these people, again, I'll say, nothing is gonna stop this. This is of the Lord. It says, wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. Okay, and again, that fruit represents knowledge, right? So yeah, man. When it comes down to it, you gotta have that spirit of discernment, whether or not to figure out who's right and who's wrong, you know. And the Lord can only give you that, you know. And the only ones that's gonna have that is the elect, you know. But yeah, just a real quick one, just to touch base on that in particular, because people try to say all this stuff about, like, oh yeah, we used to do this, we used to do that, and all this crazy crap. And I'll say this: celebrating these holidays, that goes into, again, the where I was reading Jeremiah 10. Jeremiah 10 on down talks about Christmas, man. So called Christmas, man. You know, so and how wicked it is. That was a custom that was made by the heathen. We are not supposed to be doing those things. That's not of our custom. That's not of our people, man. Our heritage. Okay, so we shouldn't be doing that. You know, same thing with the long hair. You know, that long hair was a Greek custom. That's why Paul said that. That it is a shame unto that man to have a long hair, man, because that's you look like a woman. That's confusion. But here it is: our people are taking on these customs, just as in the scriptures, man. They're taking on these customs. And I actually, let me get that real quick. Salakia. What is that? Acts chapter 6. Yep. It says, and in those days, when the number of the disciples was multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews, because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration. So if you look up the word Grecian, right? Salakia. If you look up the word Grecian, what does it say? Hellenistes, right? It says Hellenist, one who imitates the manners and customs or the worship of Greeks and use the Greek tongue. B, used in the New Testament, Jews born in foreign lands. Because again, we are scattered. James 1:1, to the 12 tribes that are scattered abroad. Greetings. It says speaking Greek. Again, taking on the customs. Let me read the number one. A, letter A. It says, one who imitates the manners and customs and the worship of the Greeks, and using Greek tongues. So we were using Greek tongue. We were speaking Greek, calling ourselves Greek, right? Just like today, we speak English. We are in America. We call ourselves American, right? American. So, but are we American? Are we? It's like, yeah. So again, there's nothing new. Scriptures say there's nothing new under the sun. So The same thing that happened back then is the same thing that happened now. Okay? So they're taking on these customs, celebrating, these pagan holidays just the same ways that we are. You know, they're dressing the way that they do, just like today. You know, you see our people dyeing their hair a certain color, blonde. You know, the way that they're acting is just different. They're wicked. They're more wicked than the wicked. The scriptures even say that, man. You know, but yeah, I'm gonna cut this, and I pray that you've been edified. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai Bahasham Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders, a great millstone who do rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect that are scattered abroad. And with that, I say, Shalom.